Good evening, everybody. My name is Meher. I am working with ThoughtWorks as a business analyst for the last 2 years. I have a total of around 7 years of experience. Before ThoughtWorks, I was in Hyderabad working with JP Morgan and Virtusa. And in all these companies, I have majorly worked with teams which is distributed, plus there are members from different vendors, and I would like to share my learnings from that experience.
All right, people. My name is Pranav. Also working with ThoughtWorks as a business analyst. Been with ThoughtWorks for around 3 years. Previously, I was with Accenture for a couple of years working as a dev. And as Meher said, playing the same role basically as a business analyst. And through this session today, we'll just be sharing our learnings around what was our experience like being in a distributed team and working in an agile manner. So without further ado, we'll just start off quickly. Just give me a minute here. Cool. So before we start off, I just want to have a quick introduction about the topic. I know most of us working have been in the industry, at least the IT industry, for quite some time now. Agile, Scrum, agile methodologies have moved on to being from just being a buzzword to having it seen being incorporated in our daily lives where we were working. With that being said, Agile, Scrum were the stalwarts of the IT industry, but they were dealing with a couple of other stalwarts of the IT industry as those buzzwords were moving in. Those buzzwords being outsourcing and distributed teams. So through this, we're just going to talk about how Agile was able to cope up with being agile through its transition, and also trying to fit in with the concept of distributed teams and companies trying to outsource. So we have limited people in the room. So just can I have a quick raise of hands whom have worked in distributed teams or have worked in agile setups?
Yeah,
cool.
Plus the multi-vendor setup as well.
Cool. So I think that's a fair number. So does anyone just want to tell me what constitutes a distributed team, or based on your experience, what does a distributed team look like? What are the different components of a distributed team? Anyone wants to have a crack at that? Yeah? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perfect. So different time zones definitely being one. Anything else? Absolutely. That's true as well. Not co-located. Yep. So I think we have a fair bit of idea, and I'll just go on to just a certain setup that we have, keeping it very generic. So as we see, distributed basically means that the development team is split into multiple streams. That is, point one, probably spread across different locations, different time zones, and also within those different time zones, in each of the different locations, we have people from different vendors working on the same thing, right? So just as an example over here, probably in one location, if we take in Gurgaon as an example, we'll be having different vendors working in the same location, right? So now that we have a basic setup of what the team looks like, can anyone just tell me what are the challenges that they foresee with having such a setup in place?
I think, so I'm sure there might be many challenges which you might have seen working in this setup, like a multi-vendor distributed. So
what was that? Collaboration.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Perfect.
Anything else?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Noted.
Yep. So I think we touched upon all those points, but some of the common challenges that we see are, first of all, the lack of communication or improper communication where things are not communicated right.
The lack of ownership, like, so that is what, as ma'am was mentioning, we need more collaboration. There is a problem in the collaboration when everybody is distributed or everybody is not on a common understanding, and that creates a knowledge silos as well. So basically, if there's a team which is working in US and there's a team which is working in Pune, another one is working in Gurgaon, so you might tend to do some features which is only, as in the skill set is present here, something which is present in Pune only. So that creates a knowledge silos, and that is what is one of the other challenges which tend to kind of like delay your delivery releases as well for that particular product or project.
Right. So through this, we'll just be sharing some of the learnings that we have working in such a setup. Yep.
Right. So so we'll take a example of one of our projects which we have worked recently. It was one of the major consulting firms, and I'll just share the MVP timeline which was there and what was the setup to meet this particular timeline. If you see here, so whenever the project starts, obviously the kickoff, the inception happens, and then there's a sprint 0, and so inception happened for this particular project in the month of August 2017, and after 7 months, the planned go live was there, which was in the end of March. Now, as we so during this timeline, if you see, there's a holiday period as well, right? Which is towards the end of December and the first week of January for the US folks who are working from there. Now, in this typical scenario, right after the holiday season, the stakeholders, they realized, okay, are we going to meet our deadlines or not? They did an exercise, they did an assessment, they realized, no, we might not be able to do our UAT as planned, and obviously if we are not able to do our UAT as planned, we might not be able to go ahead with the delivery as well. So as shown here, it was during the month of like mid-January or towards the end of January, they did this exercise, and they realized it was majorly due to the distributed and multi-vendor setup which they had to develop this particular product. Now, to go ahead, what they wanted to do. So, just taking an example from this particular project, they had to reach out to somebody who can like help them get over the finish line. By get over the finish line means they wanted somebody to take the ownership or guide them how can they be taking the product to go live. And for that, so they approached our company ThoughtWorks, and then we came in during the month of like towards the end of January and during the first week of Feb. Our major goal, which the client had told us, was we need to get this particular product released. That was the primary objective. Now, the interesting point is, we came in, but we were not the owners. We were kind of like adding into the already a team which was consisting of multi-vendors. So in this particular case, there were 5 or 6 vendors who were present in the same team, present at the same location. So if I may say that, there were people who were present from different companies in Gurgaon and working in the same team. And when we came in, we were the 7th one to get added into that particular project. Now, that is another interesting part, because it is like when we joined, we had to, as in our objective was to get the product towards the finish line, but we had to also make sure, because the development was being done by the other vendors and we had to buy in their trust, gain their confidence, and then whatever suggestions we give, we had to make sure that they kind of like not in fact adhere to it, but adopt it to take the product towards the finish line. Now, as we came in, the first thing which we did was we did an initial assessment as to why did the project landed up at this particular phase. This was, so like if I may call it as a project in fire, this was a very good example of project in fire, where the UAT was supposed to start as per the plan made right at the beginning of the discovery phase or the kickoff phase.
So it was pretty clear to us, like when we stepped into the project, we knew the time that we were stepping in and the time the project was supposed to go, like there was very minimal time there. We had like a month and a half. So we had to accept the fact that obviously there's going to be a bit of a delay, and we had to do our bit to communicate it to the business that we're going to do our bit in solving the problems that the ground is going to be a delay. So the first step from our side was to identify what's going to uncertainty, what's hampering the delivery, keeping in mind that yes, we are at a single location and there is a distributed setup. Even in one location, there are people from different vendors as well. So part of our analysis, what we figured was the mistake or the wrong application of the right things, if I may say that, was happening at the ground level. There were gaps in daily communication, which basically led or had a snowball effect when the iterations got over, when the showcases were happening. So it all had a trickle down effect. And as we mentioned earlier, if all of these things keep happening for a sustained period of time, before you know it, the entire project or the entire development team is basically in a firefighting mode. Right? And it becomes tough to communicate with the developers, business, and it basically sustains the same way. So our first job was, what we thought was our first job is to correct things at the ground level and then move forward and fix things at the iteration level and at the release level. So there were few challenges that we saw at this daily routine level when we sort of stepped into the project. We were there with the team. We thought, let's not jump straight into things. Of course, there are different vendors who have been there for some time. It's okay if things haven't gone right, but they must be doing something well. So we took a step back and just wanted to observe what was happening wrong at that point in time. So we figured out some of the things that we thought were happening wrong. Again, they were doing standards, but they were more like prolonged meeting of jobs. So instead of doing this, they were pretty stretched at times. And I think this previously mentioned, because we were working in a distributed setup, there was individual knowledge silos that were coming up in the same location and across different locations as well. The other point being anything that was supposed to be took up for development or anything that we wanted to pick up for development, there was no collaboration happening when that thing was kicking off. So what was happening was the feature of the story or any task that was being fixed, it was in progress, but the entire team was not in sync with what was being picked up, right? So that was in a nutshell in a daily routine format, and because they were in a distributed setup, they didn't have the communication channels in place. And even if they did have some of those, like if I may take an example, Hangouts and Slack being one of them. Now, just having those communication channels in place does not solve the problem. You also want to demarcate what communication channels you use for. And that knowledge needs to be constant across everyone, across all the different organizations.
So continuing this, so all these challenges which we assess that the team was facing in the daily functioning had an impact on the obviously the sprints or the iterations which was like running during that particular time. So there were lots of spillovers in our in the iterations which were being followed since the last 3 months or such, and we realized that the sprint planning was one of the main culprits, where so it was one of the main culprits of the spillovers. The reason being, the spillovers were because everybody was not on the same understanding, and during the sprint planning, nobody knew how to give the estimates. Now, if suppose suppose one of the so everybody knew how to give an estimate. Everybody was following the agile. Different vendors were having different understanding. But like for a particular story, if an estimate had to be taken, somebody might have given it as 1 pointer, but somebody might have given it as 3 pointer, a similar story during the next sprint, because this particular vendor was not involved, the other vendor was involved. So the problem was having a common understanding on giving the estimates in every particular sprint, and that is why there were challenges in working, because everybody were working on that particular story or the particular task, but the estimates which were given right at the beginning might not be correct with whatever the tasks or the subtasks are in that particular story or bug.
So before we plan was, of course, teams do have an estimation process in place. They may be following story numbers, which in our case was true, and they may be following a small, medium, large thing. And it basically depends from team to team what method that they choose for estimation. Problem that we had was, in case a team wants to go ahead with story points, it's fine. But the understanding of, let's say, a 1 pointer should remain constant across the team. And that is what was missing when we sort of entered and observed how the team was functioning.
Right. And so due to these spillovers, and also due to the multi-vendor and distributed setup, we had also realized that it was not intentional, but there were streams created for back-end and front-end. The reason being, the stories which were created were kind of like horizontally sliced. It was not like vertically sliced, so that every story is having the back-end and the front-end tasks to be performed. And due to that, during the sprint demos, there were sprint demos where the so when the front-end team is showing in the demo, it was kind of like the demo is just a walkthrough of the mockup. When the backend team is showing their demo, it was like, okay, they used their like the Postman or one of their tools to show that, okay, their APIs were working, for example. So it was very inconvenient for the business to understand, okay, I am getting some output or value back from the sprints. And due to all this, as we had mentioned, the project was at fire, and the requirement as of now was so what it did was everybody started to were in the firefighting mode, instead of like giving thoughts to the quality of the product. So it was a reactive mode rather than a proactive mode to, okay, I'll pick this up, I'll finish it off. It was more of a reactive, okay, this did not work good, now let us fix it. And that is where the difference was. So
we can improve in such a short span of time. And obviously, we had to look for inspiration in some way. Now, taking cause for inspiration, we just had a look at the extreme programming principles and decided to go ahead implementing some of the values that would give us a good churn of results in the short run. And maybe the team can leverage on that and go on to build and challenge things, build on things in a technical manner as well. So, not going to go too deep into what extreme programming means, but we just picked this way of working and tried to imbibe some of the values that extreme programming focuses on, and try to incorporate that in the daily functioning of the team. Now, again, why this framework? As I said, it's because of the values it inculcates and also how we try to push that out to the team. So one of the first thing that we did was try to have the team enabled to make better communication on a daily basis. It's not that they were not doing it, but they were not doing it right. And I think we'll just a little short on time. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly cover the values that we try to imbibe in the team. There are other values that XP focuses on. We picked 3 that suited us most, if I may say that. Communication, courage, and feedback. So,
going to the communication, as in how did we use that particular value to improve the, remember all the challenges, right? Now, how did we fix or how did we suggested that there should be changes to that? The DSMs or the standards were happening, but we changed the structure of the DSM. We changed the format of the DSM. We suggested, okay, you should be less focus should be on what you did yesterday, what will you be doing tomorrow or today, but you should also be calling out on a primary basis is what are the blockers or impediments if you have any. You should not shy from calling it out. Then to reduce the knowledge silos, we suggested, okay, it is like everybody should be getting a chance to work on every particular feature or every particular skill set if there is any different things. As XP suggests, the pair programming was one of them. Information radiators. So the information radiators again suggestion was to be of 2 types, Jira, as well as there was a physical wall which we started to use. There was already Jira present, there were already reports being generated. So we suggested, okay, you should have it right in front of the team where you are sitting, which is basically the physical wall. And that helped in, as in everybody knew, okay, this particular story is blocked, or this particular story is on higher priority, or this particular bug is causing others to be blocked. So that is what came out and helped in prioritizing the work and picking up the correct things and giving more value to the iterations. And obviously the collective ownership is, as we said, if we are doing pair programming, there it is, and the pair programming was more on vendors, not developers from the same vendor group, but we suggested, okay, you should now mingle. You should now try to, like, a developer from one vendor should be pairing with a developer from another vendor at the same location, and that will create more ownership, as well as it will ease the tension between the team members in the team if there was any. So it worked for us.
So the other thing being that working on some stuff, and just step forward and raise your hand if you need help, if you need a different pair to work on the same stuff. So instilling that mentality of courage that yes, it's okay for developers to go and talk to the business, seek answers from them. It's okay to get feedback on the piece that you're working on. So these were the things that we led by example and tried to have them follow the same thing over a sustained period of time. Again, call out impediments, share progress, and sharing progress does not mean that only if it's going well you share the progress, but even if you're facing an impediment, call it out at the right time.
So this is where we suggested to call out the RAIDs, right? Risks, assumptions, issues, and dependencies. And as soon as a risk is called out, there should be somebody who should have the courage to own it up. It is not like, okay, there is a risk, there has been some problems, and nobody will be trying to own it up. But there should be somebody who should be calling it out and owning it up as well.
So just moving forward, it's very easy just to have someone give you feedback. But I think what we tried to inculcate there was to have people go forward to other people and request for feedback. Even after doing a small chunk of work, it's perfectly okay to reach out to people and seek feedback, and also try to imbibe that culture of feedback. So I think when the team is new, it's always good to have one-on-one feedbacks, probably separately, because sharing feedback can be a tricky thing. But once the team matures and inculcates all these things, we try to do a speed feedback thing as well. I'm not really sure if people have heard of that. Can I have a raise of hands, please, if people have heard of speed feedbacks? Cool. So I'm just going to throw some light around it. So when the team reaches a certain level of maturity and people are comfortable working together, what we basically do is have 2 sets of rows, let's say on opposite sides of a table, one person facing the other person, and you give 30 seconds to each person just to share feedback and receive feedback, and then you keep rotating everyone around the table. So it also removes that formality with sharing and receiving feedback and makes it a little more fun as well.
And it was very useful in the multi-vendor setup because it improved the relations between people from different companies or different vendors. So now if we lastly talk about the success metrics, how did we improve for this particular example? Quantifying it, just few numbers from the test coverages. We from January mid or January end till the project went live, the test coverages increased for the unit test coverage increased from 9% to 70%. The end-to-end test coverage, which is again the end-to-end automation test, there was no end-to-end automation, and somebody owned it up and it increased till 70%, plus the cross-functional testing ownership. Somebody owned it up again and it was finished as well. And for this particular, in this particular example, which the MVP which was supposed to be released by March, and in March it was not looking okay, we do not know when can that be released. So we were able to release it in a considerable good amount of time. To end with this, if we see how did we mature as a team, we get to know these things from somebody from the external team or somebody who visits from the management level. They saw that this particular team now had an effective way of communication, plus they were united. As you were mentioning, the challenge is in a multi-vendor setup, that feeling of us versus them had to be broken. It has to be okay, us. It is not us versus them. It has to be we. And fortunately, over a period of like 4-5 months with practicing the values of XP, we were able to reach that particular state where, like, if I may call out now, at that particular point of time, I was more comfortable talking to other vendors than the people from my company. So as an example, as in that could have been true as well. So that is the level which we reached following the XP practices.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.